Ja, hallo zusammen, hallo aus der Bundeszentrale für politische Bildung. Mein Name ist Martin Schiller und ich begrüße Sie ganz herzlich zur Fortsetzung unseres politischen Thementags Israel auf der Suche nach Zusammenhalt. Wir haben heute Morgen bereits in einer Podiumsdiskussion sagen wir, einen Big-Picture-Eindruck von der Lage aktuell in der innerisraelischen gesellschaftlichen und politischen Lage erhalten und dort mit verschiedenen Expertinnen und Experten gesprochen. Steffi Henschke hat dieses Podium heute Morgen moderiert und ist uns auch jetzt wieder zugeschaltet zu einem Gespräch, was sich auch mit Aspekten von gesellschaftlichen Zusammenhalt befassen wird, aber auf einer anderen Ebene gelagert ist. Wir wollen uns hier ganz konkret anschauen, was eigentlich in der israelischen Zivilgesellschaft aktuell los ist, welche Akteurinnen und Akteure dort auf Herausforderungen treffen und in ihren Aktionsfeldern jeweils dafür kämpfen, dass es sowas wie Zusammenhalt zwischen zum Teil sehr konfliktbehafteten Gruppen gibt. Und wir sprechen da auf einer kleinen Exkursion, die uns von Lod nach Tel Aviv führt mit zwei NGOs. Einmal mit Abraham Initiatives, einer NGO, die sich im jüdisch-arabischen Dialog verortet, und dann mit Israeli Solidarity, die insbesondere in der Corona-Zeit im letzten Jahr als relativ neue, junge NGO gestartet sind und sich dort auf Formen der Unterstützung, der Hilfe in einer sehr, sehr schwierigen Zeit spezialisiert haben. Und hiermit übergebe ich auch schon an Steffi Henschke, die uns nun diese kleine Exkursion nochmal genauer erklärt und dann auch das Gespräch mit unseren Gästen führt.
Great. Danke, Martin. Ich wechsle jetzt wieder ins Englische. So hi to everyone. Hi to all of our guests. In the beginning, we're going to Lot. So we're going to meet now the Abraham initiatives, and later on we will travel quickly to Tel Aviv without any traffic problems, I hope. So Toma and Yuval will meet you in 20 minutes. Pretty quickly, I see now more and more attendees are joining the room, and we will start with a quick introduction. You will speak a little bit about you, and then the attendees will have the opportunity to ask questions and to use the Q&A option. We try to imagine that we're going to Lod, which is like a suburb of Tel Aviv. It's like 10-15 kilometers away from Tel Aviv. And it's quite famous after the recent clashes in May. I'm a reporter here in Tel Aviv. I was covering the situation, and there were a lot of people saying with the clashes between Arab and Jewish Israelis, if there is a civil war starting, it would start in Lod. So guys, Amon, Ola, tell us, how are you doing? And what are you doing with the Abraham initiatives?
Steffi, thank you very much. Good afternoon. I will begin, and then Ola will take over, if it's okay. So my name is Amnon, and I am the Jewish co-director of the Abraham Initiatives, which is a Jewish and Arab organization. We have about 15 Arab Palestinian staff members, as well as 15 Jewish Israeli staff members. And together we try to promote good relations based on equality between Jews and Arabs, all citizens of Israel. For those of you who don't know, in Israel, there is a significant Palestinian minority. About 20% of all Israelis are not Jews. They are Palestinians, and they are citizens of the state of Israel. And this is above and beyond the Palestinians who live outside of the borders of Israel in the West Bank and Gaza, and outside in the Palestinian diaspora. So Lod, as you said, is only 15 kilometers westward from Tel Aviv, but at the same time, it's almost a different planet than Tel Aviv. If Tel Aviv is very high-tech modern, with sophisticated culture, very liberal in spirit. Lod is almost the opposite. Lod is traditional. It is not very developed. It is very heterogeneous, very mixed, a very mixed diversity of population groups, many groups of Jews as well as many groups of Arabs. It's really a binational or bilingual, if you'd like, city. And like in other mixed cities in Israel, tensions running pretty high between Jews and Arabs. Usually people get along. They lead their daily lives in peace and quiet. But below the surface, there is always this national tension, which is thriving on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. As long as there is a conflict between Israel and its neighbors, as long as the Palestinian issue is not solved by the creation of a Palestinian state living side by side peacefully with Israel, the Palestinian minority in Israel feels discriminated against, marginalized, and those people identify with the suffering of their families and friends beyond the borders. And this is something that we keep seeing. And whenever there is a conflict between Israel and the Gaza Strip, or between Israel and the Arab world, inside of Israel, the tensions between Jews and Arabs are on the rise. And as we could all see during May, it became really nasty this time. It became really hostile and really violent. And yes, it is true, the Abraham Initiative is very scared that if and when massive clashes between Jews and Arabs will break out, it will start in one of Israel's 6 or 7 mixed cities. And this is why we're also extremely focused on trying to build mechanisms and social arrangements and understandings how Jews and Arabs should live side by side, peacefully and harmoniously in those mixed cities. Thank you.
Thank you, Amnon. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ula Najam Youssef. I'm talking to you now from Lod, our office located in Lod. And I am the director of the Safe Community Initiative. Continue what Amnon said. Our organization work to change policy through advocacy. And for many years, we're trying to rebuild the trust between the Arab community and the police services and the government services through building a bridge between the two partners to treat the relationship between my community, the Arab community, and the government. And I do believe that dialogue could help all the partners to pass the conflict together. Because if we'll still just talking to ourselves in the Arab community and the government talking to themselves in the government and the different ministry, we will not pass the conflict. And we have to put this dialogue in the table, trying to find the way to live together here. On the last crisis we faced, especially on Lod and other towns, especially in the mixed city, just to let you know, as I said, that our organization located in Lod, and some of us have a trauma to came to the office, because this is a place that we spend 8 hours every day together, Jewish and Arab colleague together. And we tried for, as an organization, Jewish and Arab organization, we tried to be a model of working together and discourse the common shared society we came here, we visit in Lod in the middle of the crisis. We visit the Jewish family here and the Arab family that faced violence between each other. And our team work around the clock to respond to the crisis and trying to develop a strategic to recalibrate the Jewish-Arab relation and overcome the damage that has been done, especially in Lod. Anita in the beginning asked me to introduce one or two of our activity that we do during the crisis. And as I said, dialogue, it's part of our work. On the beginning of the crisis, we applied to the Commissioner of Police to provide equal policing services for the Arab citizen. After we became aware that we have a report from the ground that the Arab faced highly of unequal behavior from police men, especially against Arab demonstrators, that they went to the street to demonstrate about the situation in Lod. And also we applied to the state attorney to promote equality in criminal prosecution at the time. And in general, and all over the time, we developed development knowledge and data on violence and crime in Arab society, and offering recommendation to the decision makers to address the phenomena. And if there's people was surprised from what happened in Lod, we are not surprised, because like Amnon said, the situation in the ground in Lod so terrible, and the Arab community, they didn't have the list of the services from the ministry and from the government. And we do that in the Safe Community Initiative. We have also a community capacity building. We have a coordinator in all the towns that we work on, and we choose to work in the town that they have a new police station. Again, to trying to rebuild and building bridge between the community in the towns and the police department in the new police station. We have a lot of training on the ground for youth, women, and teacher teams, because we do believe that with them we can change the situation here. Also, we held a national campaigns, and on the last crisis, we have a very big campaign in the Israel media to bring to raise awareness about the situation and to bring another hope for that we can live together. On the end, I want to say that sometimes we succeed and sometimes we not, because the situation here is very complicated, and every thing are very sensitive in the relationship between the Arab and Jewish community, and between the Arab community and the government services. But for sure, for me, we do not lose the hope that it's possible to promote a common and shared society here. So we continue doing that so far over 30 years. And thank you for this opportunity to bring our situation here in the line.
Thank you, Ola. Thank you so much. I think it's very crucial what you just said. And that's the difference, unfortunately, between a real trip and this virtual trip. I experienced it here myself. Things changed since May. I live in Jaffa and I see Jewish Israelis are still not coming back in the evening to enjoy the nightlife. So I just can't imagine how the situation in Lod must be and how it must be for you and your colleagues. We got a question, but before that, I just wanted to tell a little bit about this media campaign just, or maybe you can tell us a little bit more about this media campaign, because I saw it here. It was like 2 days, I think Wednesday night, the situation escalated. And on Thursday or on Friday, there were a lot of spots, commercials on TV about Jews and Arab Israelis being together. How were you involved? How did you do it?
Could you?
Sure. Yeah, I'll be happy to share. So we felt that during the conflict between Israel and Gaza and the missile attacks on Israel and on Gaza, the different media outlets, including the television channels, were full of commentators and reports and people, generals, people who spoke about the war, and that we need to do this and that, and we need to destroy and attack, and etc. And we felt that this is terribly unbalanced, because in the meantime, both Jews and Arabs are sitting in their homes with a lot of anxiety, and they don't know how they can simply, continue to live together, because people were actually fighting each other on the streets. So we decided to launch this very simple, very primitive, if you'd like, media campaign that says basically, there is no way but only together, Jews and Arabs only together. And we managed to get the attention of the media, and it was quite encouraging, and even sometimes even funny to see that while those generals and commentators are sitting in the studios, in the newsrooms, and are discussing the need to throw more bombs or attack more or be more aggressive, on the background, behind them, there was this slogan, Jews and Arabs only together. And we were very satisfied. We were very happy because we managed to convene an alternative message. So that was one campaign. The second campaign, towards the end of the conflict, we decided to launch mainly a radio campaign saying basically that at the morning after the events, after the conflict, Jews and Arabs will have to continue to work together and to study together and to spend their recreation time together. And we knew that in many workplaces in Israel where Jews and Arabs are working together, there are going to be many problems and many clashes, and people will be suspicious and hostile towards each other. And so we decided to reach out over the radio to the many workplaces and many employers in Israel and tell all of them, remember, there is a day, there is a morning after the conflict.
I need to interrupt you here, Anon. I'm sorry because we only have 5 minutes left.
Oh,
I'm sorry for
sorry.
this. It's very, because when you say that you could do it within 2 days, how many people working for you? How many people are volunteering with Abraham Initiatives right now?
So at the Abraham Initiative, we have 30 Jews and Arabs working for us, and about the same amount of same number of volunteers or lay leaders, if you'd like. And we operate in education and in representation and equal services, and even in the Israeli parliament, we're trying to promote equality and shared living between Jews and Arabs in Israel.
Thank you. And I have a question for Ola. You spoke about the trainings you're doing for young people, for women. How about like non-violent trainings? What kind of trainings are you doing for them? And are they mixed groups, or are you going to like an Arab school, or like how are you doing it?
As I said, that some of the problem that because we didn't have a trust with the government. So one of the courses is personal security course, which linked with the government services and the community, the youth and the women. We have 20 meetings from different government services, police, home front command, fire services, and another government services. And the teacher training that we do, it's nonviolent in the classroom, which is a very specific program for teachers' team to dealing with violence in the class and in the schools in the Arab community. We have 175 schools which in red signs that they have high violence. So what we are trying to bring skills and a mechanism for the teachers to have more skills to treat the phenomena in the classes. All the programs are separate for Arab community, and as I said, we do it that in the towns that they have a new police station, trying to give the Arab community another opportunity that we can treat the phenomena of crime and violence together during this program that we do in the field.
I think, to be honest, we would all love to have more time. There's another question incoming. In which language you're communicating? I assume it's in Hebrew, right?
The program in Arabic, yeah. And this is okay. I said in the beginning that we are trying also to change policy, or the government services is in Hebrew, and in the personal security course, we are trying the government to do the program in Arabic, in our language, and the materials to be in our language, and the facilitators to be in our language in Arabic, because this is the first step to build the trust that the Arab community understand and see that the government look for their needs. And the Hebrew language is the second language for us. Most of the women and youth, they didn't have the very good Hebrew language, so we ask them to bring their services in Arabic. And as I said, in some of the places we succeed. Even the police men that they came and bring the information about the police station are Arab. So it depends in the government services.
We have a last question. It's a little too complicated for the last 2 minutes, but I'll try. What are the feedback from Palestinians in East Jerusalem and the Palestinian territories? Are they supporting your work? I guess this question goes into the relations between Palestinians.
I have to clarify that our organization work with the citizens who are citizens of Israel. The Palestinian in the East Jerusalem, most of them, they are not citizens of Israel. So we didn't work that in بميوخد especially, but we do work with the citizen of Israel, because when we ask the government to give the services for all the citizens of Israel, I want to feel that I am equal as a Jewish citizen here. I hope that I answered the question. And if you have another question, you have our email. You can also email us.
That's very helpful, Ola. Thank you for reminding. I think this goes really into the deep into the relations. Ola, Amnon, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It would be nice to spend the afternoon with you and to be in Lot with you, I guess, and to see how the situation is. I wish you all the best. And like Ola already said, the participants have your contact details, and maybe we meet soon personally. Have a nice afternoon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Wow, we're now really good in time, and we're now going to Tel Aviv. Da wir gerade unter uns sind und alle Teilnehmer auf Deutsch sind, würde ich auch mal daran erinnern, gerne frühzeitig Fragen zu schicken, damit wir genau wissen, welche Fragen reinkommen und wir die am Ende gut sammeln können. Dann haben wir im Prinzip am Ende noch ein bisschen Zeit, wenn wir jetzt quasi genauso nochmal das gleiche Prozedere machen bei Israeli Solidarity in Tel Aviv. Müssen Sie nur noch kommen. Es tut mir leid, jetzt war ich ein bisschen schnell in der Zeit. Es ging jetzt ein bisschen zügig. Kann jemand Tomer und Here you are. Perfect.
I'm here. Hi.
No traffic. No traffic. That's why we're so quickly and you're so good in time.
Thank you.
Hi, Thomas. Thank you. So I think Yuval will join us in a second, and we will just continue the more time now we have for you. So it's just been a lot, and we spoke about the clashes, the tensions between Arab and Jewish Israelis recently. And now we go into a situation that is more or less forgotten, the Corona here in Israel, which was also a big thing. And that's why we're going to meet you. And Israeli Solidarity is a quite new organization. We spoke an hour ago, Thomas. I think you were just founded just before the first lockdown. And I think for the people, it's for German or German audience, it's pretty interesting to hear why it was necessary to found something like Israeli Solidarity. And also, you were not the only organization. I saw that there is some organization founded to help people in this crisis. So yes, the floor is yours, Tamar. Thank you very much.
So thank you very much for having me, Steffi, and thank you for everyone for joining. Steffi, I'm sorry, but Yuval is trying to open her camera, so if you can help.
It says I can't.
So again, thank you. Yes, Steffi, as you said before, I founded the Israeli Solidarity with a group of activists, social and political activists, 3 days before the first lockdown. We just sat together and we were just like talking about what is coming, and nothing was clear yet, but what was clear is that it's going to be a big mess, a big balagan in Israel. First of all, it was kind of clear that all of the world will be in some kind of a mess, but in Israel especially, I think, because that Israel just came out in the first lockdown after 3 elections without coalition. And 2 main things that we found like most essentially to start doing, it's because of, first of all, we haven't had like budget, national budget for 2 years in a row. And it was like clear that welfare and education
Can you say why not? Can you say why not? Why you didn't have a budget for 2 years?
Because of the political situation. Benjamin Netanyahu went to elections and for 3 times in a row didn't succeed to build a coalition, but no other challenger could the same. So we started like this political spinach where there was just no government, no minister of budget, etc., etc. So Israel was not ready, and that is after 2 decades of like deep cuts in welfare state, in education, and in health. Sorry. So the system were already weak before those 2 years without budget, and after those 2 years, it was like clear that the Israeli government system is not ready to take care of everyone. How sadly it may sound. And the second thing is after those 3 elections, Israel society was more separated than ever. Israeli society is really built on groups and groups. You just had a conversation with the organization that works with Arabs and Jews. Inside Arab society, inside Jewish society, there's a lot of groups. It's really segregated. And after those 2 years, more than ever, right and left, you could like feel the tension in the streets. And that's how we came up with the name to Israeli Solidarity, when the mission was double. First of all, helping everyone in any way we could. We didn't narrow it down to one kind of aid or another. We just supported at real time what people needed. We built this platform in social media and got over like 8,000 volunteers all around the country. And a bit more than 2,000 people signed to tell us what are the problems, like social workers, other NGOs, just citizens worried about their neighbors. And so all day long, we had this way to measure what is now the main problem for Israeli society. As Yuval will tell you soon, at the start it was a lot of babysitting for like emergency workers, medicine, etc. And later on, it was about the lockdowns, helping people that are locked or in quarantine. And in the end, and today, it's basically welfare, helping the elderly, poor families, this kind of activity. But the other thought about this organization was that we want to connect different Israelis together to help each other and not just help from our quarters in Tel Aviv. And this is how we build it. We build it in 12 regional groups. Every region had one like a manager like Yuval in Tel Aviv. They just got together people with problem and whoever wants to help and bring them together. And this way helping and bringing up the solidarity in Israeli society. Yuval, you want to tell us a bit about yourself?
Thank you.
Yes, so as Tomer already said, I'm responsible for the volunteers in Tel Aviv. I joined Solidarity almost a year ago. It was like, there was a link that was sent on a few WhatsApp groups that says if you want to volunteer or if you need help, you can fill this link and join Solidarity. And I felt like I had to do something. So I signed to volunteer. And a few days later, I got a phone call from one of the volunteers that said, what can I do in Solidarity? And a few days later, I joined. So on my daily work in Solidarity, I collect all the calls from people that need help. We have like a form, a sheets document that collect all the calls for help. So there was, at the beginning of the crisis, there was a lot of babysitting, people that asked for a babysitter, or old people that asked for someone that can get them their medicines. And as we went into the when the crisis was like, okay, later this year, the asked for help for food, and it wasn't from very poor or old people. It was from people that had families and had stable jobs, and that was like the scariest, the most scary part, because the people that ask for help are people that like a year ago or a few months ago gave them the help themselves and never asked for help before. And I think that those people that had families and stable jobs and now need to use organizations like Solidarity made me understand like how important was what we do. And if Solidarity couldn't give those people the help they needed, I don't know who could give them this help. Yes. So during quarantines, we helped like thousands of people every week. It was crazy. We had a lot of volunteers, and from the other side, we had a lot of people that asked for help. So we did a lot during Corona.
So now more or less normality is back here in Israel. What's going on right now? What can you do right now after the Corona, more or less?
What we're focusing now are two main objects or missions. First of all, the Corona is not here, but her social and economical waves are still with us. Like Yuval said, a lot of middle-class families that were left without a job are in need more than ever. The state is not yet prepared to help not all of them. They will be needing more help, I believe. This is first. Secondly, what we are trying to do now is build a network of small groups that we will put to action in the day-to-day, so they will be ready in the next crisis that we hope won't come, but as we know, they usually do. So we are building these local action groups, which are building up their communities while helping in any ways, which is mainly food, toys for children. Sometimes we get some recruit money for families, but we don't do it a lot, only when it's like special cases. But food, clothing, stuff for home, stuff like that, helping the elderly and creating their communities, but by themselves, not just us like in Tel Aviv trying to mobilize the rest of the country, but like local, really local grassroots groups.
Can you tell us more how the welfare system in Israel works? I think, is it like, did you have like state-run institutions that you could work with? I had the feeling sometimes it's like you have in the ultra-Orthodox community, you have a big tradition of charity and helping. And then I think the municipality of Tel Aviv is also helping, but I'm not sure if everyone is aware how it's working here in Israel.
So what we have big NGOs, welfare NGOs. This is like of the last decade. It used to be state-owned, but today most of the welfare are run through NGOs, like big NGOs. And as you say, Steffi, sorry?
Can you say why? Why it's like this for the last 10 years?
The privatization procedures in Israel are going on for 3 decades of neoliberal coalitions, one after the other one. Only one time, I think, like a social democratic party was inside coalition in 2006, but leaving that one aside, 33 decades of neoliberal regimes and governments. So welfare is not in the first priority. For sure, no, not until now. Let's see if something will change with the new coalition. I hope so. But basically, after 3 decades of privatization, there are not many left. There are some, like, as you said, Steffi, some communities that do it inside the community great. Israeli Arabs and ultra-Orthodox and villages, mainly like small villages, moshavim kibbutzim, for who is familiar with the name. But the problem this time that, first of all, it was national everywhere. So we had to like build these communities out of nothing in the big cities too. And secondly, those small communities, when they are not very rich, they can't help everyone in that kind of a crisis. Like we sent tons of food and clothing to ultra-Orthodox and Arab villages, and not because they lacked of volunteers, they were lacking food and like basic necessities. So in this aspect, we just gather our activists in the cities to collect food, toys, books, clothing, etc., and just send it to other activists we know in the ultra-Orthodox communities and the Arab communities. We try, by the way, to really like mix the groups, like sending different activities to different regions. Yuval herself is from Yafo. Yafo is nowadays part of the municipality of Tel Aviv, but it's like Arab and Jews city combined. And we have activists like Jewish and Arab activists helping everyone they need.
Yuval, I have a question for you. Just tell us, what was your motivation to get involved? How was your situation a year ago? Tomer just mentioned, I think there's a huge tradition, community-based tradition in Israel to help. And yes, tell us more about you.
So I'm 18 years old. I just finished high school. And last summer, I felt like school has stopped because of Corona, and it was like a few a few months that I did nothing. The youth movement I take part of has stopped. School stopped. I work at a restaurant, and it also stopped. And I felt like Chanukah. I felt like I can't breathe because I can't do anything. I can't do anything, and I need to do something. I need to help somehow. I need to, everyone are in crisis, and I felt like I have to do something to change this situation. And solidarity was what I found and helped me to become an activist. And it helped me feel like I can do something, and that the very difficult situation all of us been at it can be solved. So that was the motivation.
I wanted to ask, to add, Steffi, if it's okay, that me, myself and Yuval, but I think many of us had some years inside the youth movements, which are very common still in Israel.
What are the youth movements? Tell us more about it.
My 20 years ago, my youth movement was called Tnuat HaMoshavim. It's a movement, I think it's the Falcons, I think, in Germany, with the blue with the red stripe, right? So it's a part of Anor Oved Lomed, which is Israeli Falcons. It's like the stream in this, of the villages, but of the Falcons. And Yuval, Knafayim Shel Krembo?
Yes, so my youth movement is Knafayim Shel Krembo. It started as an organization and developed to be a youth movement. It's the only youth movement in the whole world that combine teens from the general education with teens and kids with special needs. So it also together with solidarity.
I've had a feeling here in Tel Aviv, at least, there were a lot of young people very active. I once went to Rabin Square. I think I met you. I saw you handing out food to people. I saw the other group, Culture of Solidarity. I think they have a little center in Neve Tzedek, and a lot of people being active, delivering food. Is this the, how do you say, is it like a normal thing for young people in Israel to be that active, or is it a Tel Aviv bubble thing? Okay,
no, it's everywhere. It's just that in Tel Aviv you have lots of options. If in, I don't know, in Haifa you have the Scouts and Anor Oved Lomed, in Tel Aviv you have tens of youth movements.
Mm-hmm.
What I think, Steffi, but Israel was founded as a really solidarity state. It had great social aid, great healthcare, great education system, and really the inside solidarity was really strong. Last decade's been really terrible politically and for like social life. Everything is separated and everyone is like really in tension. And I think what we see now is every time we see a crisis in Israel, you see everyone kind of, I don't want to say nostalgia, but go back to the time that we were for each other. And we see every crisis, if it's pandemic or war or famine or anything, you see this like large parts of Israeli society, not only young, but young people too, really getting involved and helping, like spontaneously sometimes.
That brings me to the next question. How do you fund yourself? Who's like helping you? Where do you get money from?
We don't get many funds, actually. It's kind of crazy. Like the first year was crazy. I think what we've done almost with no funds at all, but it was mainly because everyone wasn't working. Help. Yeah, and everyone wanted to help. So we got everything we needed. We got offices and we got like logistics and lawyers and video and everything we needed kind of for free. It was a great experience. Personally, I came from this world of organizing activists and volunteers, mainly politically, but it's kind of the same. And for the first time doing it without funds at all, it was really like interesting and even fun. But in the last month, again, we are going back to normality, and we are now raising funds like from personal people, from our volunteers. We got some help actually from some German Stiftungs that I don't know if it's the place to mention, but we got some
It's on
help.
your website. Yes, it's the Friedliche Stiftung. It's on. I saw it on your website. Yeah.
That helps us, and Tel Aviv municipality helps a bit, but again, not much funds today for NGOs in Israel, because every NGO, like all the NGOs, are in deep need, and everyone donated a lot in 2020, so it's a bit hard, but we are doing what we can.
Tamar, in the beginning or before the meeting, we talked about you're politically involved, you were the Meretz party, and I was also wondering.
No.
No? Did I make a mistake?
No,
Sorry.
it's the other one.
Yeah.
It's the other way. Okay, you're Avodah
No.
and you're Meretz. No, okay.
Eliran, which is not here, runs the NGO with me. He was the head of Young Meretz, and I was the head of Young Labor.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. So that's, but I was wondering, did you also make a negative experience during your work with the NGO? I mean, was there any situation, where you felt like you're not welcome, or somebody, you're trying, I think you're.
What?
No, it looked like you're wanting to say something. You want to say something. So so we got the question. If you made any negative experience during the time when you were trying to help the people.
No, I don't think that was like real negative experience in this year. Maybe a bit, again, we came out of those organizations. I was active in Labour Party for the decade and my partner in Meretz Party. And we felt that, let's say, our political comrades are not involved enough in social life. It wasn't in my NGO, or just like we just saw for the first time, I think, this separation between political activists and social activists. I don't know why it happens in Israel. I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but the separation between those who are working in the field with the people who are needing our help, and those political activists that, do other things, but that never touch the field and never touch the people. I think for me, it was kind of eye-opening about what we should do.
You just mentioned that you got that you're funded by the Friedrich-Ebert-Stiftung. How is it internationally? Are you in like a discourse with international groups from other countries?
I took many times, by the way, part in delegation to Germany, mainly Berlin, with the SPD and the users and the Willy Brandt Center that sits in Jerusalem, Israel. They are close comrades and partners. A lot of my ideas, a lot of my political education I got from this cooperation. And I'm actually coming to Berlin if someone wants to meet and know each other. In next month to Hashomer HaTzair Deutschland, that they're inviting us for a seminar. So the linkage with the German activists and political partners are very strong, very helpful.
So maybe you have an overview. How is it like different, the situation in Germany than in Israel? I mean, you just mentioned that there was no social and no welfare from the state side for people here. And what did you see? That's a question. Just a question we got. What went differently? How did it work in Germany, considering the corona, and if you compare it to Israel?
I'm not sure that I know enough about Germany to compare. Like I was following, but not enough to compare. It looks more organized, as always, but in Israel it really looked unorganized, but to the extreme point. Like Israelis are not expecting their government to be very well organized, but this one time it was like over the top. It was clearly they took like messages and in the next day like mixed messages to the population. It was clearly that no one is managing the crisis for at least for a few months. at the beginning, and it was just like no one knew anything. What is the policy? What they should or shouldn't do? What will happen with the jobs and the salaries and the businesses, and no one just knew it. Not only that the state didn't do enough, it just didn't organize it well, didn't manage the crisis. So I think it's something that looked different.
So that brings us more or less to our last question. Tomer, you told me you're now moving into new offices. So you're staying, you're going to become a stable organization.
Yeah.
Yes. What are your perspectives for the future? We have now a new government, Meretz and Avoda, and the Labour Party are part of it. What are your assumptions for the future, considering the welfare situation and the people you're trying to help?
So let's say for the short and the long run. For the short run, first of all, like the political crisis is for now behind us. There is government and they are trying to do their best. I'm not sure yet what will happen, but that already feels better. Knowing that someone in the government is trying to make some order in this crisis. But I have to say that I'm not that optimistic because again, Meretz and Labour Party are in coalition. Labour for the first time in over a decade, Meretz over 2 decades. But the extreme right is also in, and some other problematic parties. Not only problematic because my personal political point of view, but like we saw what they're planning in the economic and welfare side, and it doesn't look that good. But again, it's better because something is happening and we will have budget, I believe, soon in a few months. So for the short term, I think it's, again, better. And for the long term, I just think that just like ending this political crisis of 3 years and ending this freeze in political system in Israel, it's super important. But my side, the left side of the Israeli political power, should not go to rest or sleep or anything else because nothing is like fundamentally changed. The vast majority of Israeli Jews are right-wingers. They vote right for the last 2 decades. And right now, the Israeli right have like 60% of parliament. And because of this constellation with Netanyahu and Bennett, Lieberman, and their like kind of, I don't know if personal, but their beef, which is not very political, when it will be over, and it's because Netanyahu will leave the scene or he will come back, firstly, the things might just go back to how they used to. So we have to continue work and continue organizing and mobilizing people and educating because the history is not over yet and the challenges are still here.
We got another question and it's quite interesting. It's about how it could happen that there was a shortage of food and not enough food. I just read that after the escalation with Gaza, a lot of prices will be increased even more. And maybe you can tell us just a last point about this, the situation here, how expensive food is and how it can happen that there is not enough food and people can't afford food.
Actually, food is never, I'm sorry, not never, but food is not in shortage in Israel, not during the 2020 crisis and not during war. It's just like price gaming of the market. It's not a real shortage. The food is here. It's just not contributed, or, you know, and not every supermarket I went through these 2 years was full of food. There is no real shortage of food.
Exactly. No, it's not a shortage of food. It's just that you people can't afford the food. It's I saw it myself. Old women trying to collect enough enough money to buy essential things. So just tell us what's like the yes.
Yeah, and again, it's actually, I don't think it's because of the price going up because they didn't went that up. I think it's just poverty that is becoming deeper and deeper. Like take a family that just got like 30% of their income. They were well off 2 months ago, and now they are not, and they are in need for food. So unemployment is the real issue, I think. And again, labor market in Israel, which was terrible before that. Our inequality is the biggest in the West, I think, after US, maybe Britain, but like in the top. So like millions of Israelis, even before the crisis, had problem. I don't know if starved to death is kind of rare in Israel, this kind of deep poverty, but it's now coming more and more. And those societies that were already poor before the crisis, they are the ones now looking for food.
I think this is something some of the, maybe our German audience is not aware of. Germany is one of the countries with the lowest prices for food. And Israel is one of the countries with the highest prices for food. I don't have the numbers now yet, but yes, and there was a discussion and there was a huge protest 10 years ago about, I think, pudding, right? Chocolate pudding, which is like 50 eurocent in Germany and €2 or €3 sometimes in Israel. So if you want to have like a basic shopping, just pasta and maybe some tomatoes in Israel, you pay like at least €10, €20. And in Germany, you can get the same for €5. And I think this is one of the major problems here, right? You can, if you don't have enough money, you don't have enough money to buy food.
Yeah, Israeli prices are absurd. Everyone that visits here, it's clear. Like I think most of products are like more expensive than Western Europe, and the salaries, of course, not. Living, but like rent is super high. If you try to rent a house in Tel Aviv, but also outside of Tel Aviv, it's like Manhattan. It's super costly. The food is very costly, the energy, everything basically. So again, those who had are in kind of a problem now, but those who haven't, like didn't have anything before that, are like really sinking fast. Like becoming broke in Israel, it's not just lowering your lifestyle. It's like deep to the bone, like fast. It's come fast, like to rent and food.
Yes, I think this sums it up pretty much and pretty good. And this is the situation in Israel. We see that, as you said, there's less and less social welfare from the state. Prices are increasing, and it needs organizations like you that are kind of more or less part of the Israeli tradition of being solidaric with each other, but on the community-based level, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Tomer, Yuval, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And have a nice day. Hope to see you soon in person.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.